Hit, hit! Wanna be have no fear comes and goes, man. It's here, no one knows. Feels so weird when it blows to my bones. I got a dose for. Wanna know more? Cause it's about what I got to show.
The word Marxist, I think people have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like socialism, they don't know what they're talking about.
No,
most of these words, most people don't know what they're talking about. But Marxist, I find to be the one that people really just have no concept of what they're talking about.
But I'm sure these people really do.
Yeah, no, these people definitely know.
Yeah, they've read all 3 volumes of Capital.
Yeah, they've read
all 10 volumes.
Yeah, all
666 volumes.
Yeah. Learn liberty. You must learn liberty to know liberty.
Nice old English font there. I like that.
Very true cult.
Friends they go nuts. I say Marx was the greatest social scientist in the 19th century.
Cigarettes aren't bad for you.
No. She sounds like a. Just listen to her as the video goes on. She sounds like a female Jordan Peterson. I'm not
You're right. You're right.
Scientist in the 19th century without compare.
Oh
all
God!
My friends at the Hoover Institution go ah.
Dude, she sounded like a zombie there, like a Black Ops 2 zombie. Like, how do you even do that? She had like 2 vocal lines there.
Then I say, and
she should work for fucking Mom, bro.
Institution go ah. Then I say,
damn, that was actually impressive.
Wrong. And then my friends on the left go ah, which is why I got any friends.
The life of a class.
You think that's why?
It ain't easy.
Well, you're pissing off people.
Pissing off people.
I think you don't have any friends because you sound like a fucking ghoul from Fallout.
The basic idea, of course, is it history as a
Goddamn. Oh, goddamn. Zach's fucking roasting.
Fucking destroyed, bitch.
The basic idea of Marxism, of course, is that history has a particular pattern, and that ideas come from...
Dude, she's the female fucking Jordan Peterson. Like, tell me it's not true.
I'm horrified at the
Is this
existence of this lady.
She sounds just like Jordan Peterson if he was a woman.
But it surprisingly started sort of on the right track, so I'm a little bit curious what she's going to say.
That pattern, from that material pattern, that the class struggle is central. The history of all hitherto existing societies, to quote the Communist Manifesto, is the history of class struggle. And if you believe that, and you believe that ideas are just epiphenomenal, that they just come from your class position, which is what Marxists are supposed to think, then you'll be a follower of Marx. And oddly, from about 1890 to about 1980, nice symmetry there, most intellectuals in the West were some kind of Marxist.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's when it took a turn. Like, it started sort of semi-reasonable, like a little too fancy for me, epiphenomenal. Like, okay, yeah, sure, buddy. But then it switches to Jordan Peterson mode on, like all the intellectuals, all the school teachers, academia is like all just Stalinoids in there with their pictures of Stalin.
Well, it turns out that all these fucking fucking.
you sound like Marge from fucking.
We have to blow up Megaton.
What is this Fukuyama shit? Like, do they know that Fukuyama actually came out and supported socialism? Like, maybe they'll say that, but probably they won't.
Well, it's like they like to use like Chaplin movie, The Great Dictator, about socialism. Like they like to cite Orwell about socialism. Like half the people they cite are socialists of some kind.
Even the conservatives believed that material interests were what determined ideas. Whereas my claim, and the claim of a growing number of historians and
ghouls,
especially historians, is that no, ideas themselves have an influence.
Oh my God!
You're okay. So you have this revolutionary, brand new idea called complete idealism, which is totally not an archaic, outdated false antiquated theory that people abandoned because it's nonsense. Like, no.
The way
Like,
she's framing this is like as if like idealism was an invention after Marx, which is like ridiculous.
First, people were scientists and like reasonable, and you looked at empirical data and stuff, and then somebody came up with a really smart idea, like, no, it's all just somehow spiritual and idealistic. Okay,
that ideas in and of themselves have influence on material
people read Wealth of Nations. People read Wealth of Nations and capitalism.
Oh yeah, that's when they invented capitalism.
Yeah,
it's just fucking animals.
Ridiculous.
And the idea that all men and women, dear, are created equal is a terrifically powerful idea. So it's that egalitarianism of 18th century liberalism that I'm trying to reinvigorate.
So I suppose somebody just randomly invented that. It wasn't tied to anything, like any historical phenomena or anything. Somebody just invented it.
Oh, okay, so she's a classical liberal idealist.
Oh,
I guess
okay,
that's an improvement from Jordan Peterson.
Well, okay, call me crazy, but when capitalist class was emerging as a power against the feudal classes and the feudal order, they came up with these ideas like, yeah, you really shouldn't be able to own slaves, and you shouldn't have serfdom. You should have freedom, economic freedom, but also other types of freedom. And, you should have this modern nation state and all this. The best thing that came out of that was liberty, fraternity, equality, which it fit their agenda at the time. And the capitalists were doing their own revolutions. They were revolutionary, but now they're in power. Now they're throwing all that away. Like, they don't have use for it anymore. Now, like, talking about equality is all just like Marxism. It served their purpose at the time.
Yeah, invoking the French Revolution with their shit is like really fucking stupid for a number of reasons. Basically, I mean, Robespierre would have guillotined that fucking ghoul. That's all I can really say.
Well, yeah, like, obviously the French Revolution was, even though it was led by the bourgeoisie, it was still done predominantly by poor people.
Yeah.
I mean, there were various factions in it, but still.
What's this? Pints with Aquinas? Do I want to watch this?
This is called Why No Catholic Can Support Socialism.
I wanted to ask you real briefly, because there's a lot of talk about this today, about socialism and capitalism and communism. Could you just help us understand these terms and why a Catholic can't be a socialist?
Sure. So the question that we try to pose in economics, and my co-author Catherine Pakalik is more the specialist on this. But
cool. I'll
what we want to
subscribe.
ask is, who has control over means of production? Those things that produce goods and services that are usually
Jesus hated poor
people on a free market. That's how economies work.
Child molestation is legal in socialism.
Like private companies will produce goods and services that people exchange kind of on a market. That would essentially be what capitalism is. And there's always been, throughout history, markets where people bring stuff to the market and exchange.
That's wrong.
The way idealism works is you take the current state of affairs and then you just, like, impose that back into history. Like,
well, by history, do they mean, like, the agricultural revolution? Because, like, perhaps there was some form of markets?
Even at the agricultural revolution, markets did not really become a thing. It wasn't until, later developments of civilization that markets came to be.
In the Middle Ages, the way markets worked was that one day during which you were allowed to sell stuff, and you only were allowed to do it in one place. You go to the one specific place where that's allowed on the one specific day when it's allowed, so the state can tax you when you're doing it, and then that was the extent of the market. Even like 100 years ago in this country, half the people in the countryside were paid in food or other products. They weren't even paid in money. So, somewhere there was a market, but a lot of people never came in contact with it. So to say market always exists, like, that's very misleading simplification.
No, it's just dishonest.
I heard this ANCAP make this question, and dude, have you ever heard of a farm that you can pay your rent with food that you make? I'm like, yeah, it's called feudalism, dummy.
It's called pre-capitalism.
Yeah, genius.
Things like that. Capitalism really arose in the 14th century, 13th century.
What?
When people were able...
The 14th century.
Whatever. Like, he's going to say that
in the 13th century.
Well, he's going to say that somewhere like in Switzerland or the somewhere in like Portugal
like
or Switzerland, there was like
some like irrelevant country.
There was like some like merchants were doing their merchant stuff. Like, okay, yeah, sure, there were some people, like wage labor has existed for a very long time, and commodity production has existed for a very long time. It's just that back in the day, it had very little economic significance because the predominant mode of production was not capitalism. The predominant mode of production was something very, very different. Like, it was feudalism functioned mainly based on land ownership, tax, tribute, stuff like that. They didn't function on generalized commodity production or any of this capitalistic stuff. So, I mean, this is what they like to do. They like to just, I mean, this is a weird Marxist way of doing it, but they don't recognize qualitative change. They only recognize quantitative change. So they say like, okay, well, if in Babylon there was 0.1% of the population were engaged in markets, then that means Babylon was capitalist. Like, it was the same type as capitalist as today.
Yeah.
Well, they think that fucking capitalist development happened in the fucking 13th century. Nah, not when like fucking they had discovered the Americas, which also coincided with the Industrial Revolution, like around 16th to the 17th century. Like, that shit happened in the 13th. like what the fuck? Like in the middle of the fucking like Middle Ages.
Well, they had currency, so they had capital. It was capitalist mode of production since they had gold coins.
Yeah, why Catholics can't support socialism? You know, Jesus, he was a big fan of the moneylenders.
I mean, when he whipped that banker's ass, like he did it ironically, you know. Yeah, like he was really hating the rich, you know. It was
the
on
whole
our
thing
side.
about the rich guy and the camel going through the eye of a camel, whatever. Like fucking, nah, that shit was like just like pretend like it's not in the book.
You just get a real small camel.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're rich enough, you can find one.
Yeah. I don't like how the shit is presented. It's like, hey, today we're going to talk about fucking socialism. Let's sit down, have a cup of coffee, and talk about why socialism is fucking retarded, bro. This is fucking.
Let's sit down and talk about how socialism is literally the devil.
Are those Bibles? Do they have their microphones on like Bibles, or what are those?
Yeah,
it looks like
thick as New King James Version fucking Bible.
Like biography of fucking Mannerheim. Like
that's a fucking tome right there.
The fucking the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, it's a spell book. I know actually a number of Catholics who are communists or anarchists or whatever.
Yeah, they're Catholic communists.
How widespread is Catholicism in the U.S.?
Pretty widespread.
Yeah.
Depends on the area. Usually there's at least like a couple Catholic churches and then there's like a Protestant. I don't even know if it's called a church. Some other fucking shit. Maybe
I think the majority of American Christians are Protestant. The second largest group is Catholic, and they make up a pretty large percent of.
Yeah, in SoCal.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Finland is like almost exclusively Protestant, except Finland only like weird religious sects. Like.
Well, you have a lot of Baptists in the South. But anyway, let's continue with.
There's like specifically Finnish forms of fundamentalism. They don't allow people to watch TV or kind of strange, kind of like Jehovah's Witnesses. Used to be big in the countryside.
To make more profits from industry and then be able to reinvest them back into companies, and people were able to pull. Capitalism really arose in the 14th century, 13th century.
Yeah. Ridiculous
when
statement. People
were able to make more profits from industry and then be able to reinvest them back into companies.
What industry? This is like
what industry in the 1300s?
Like, I was reading a book on Descartes, and it was talking about how like Descartes saw people as just flesh machines with a soul, and he thought about everything like as machines. He thought about the universe as a machine, and you know why that is? It's because Copernicus, Galileo, like Newton, and because they were actually building machines that worked with like mechanical power, like with windmills and like water mills and stuff. And when was that? 1600s or something?
Yeah.
What machines did they have like in the 1300s?
Well, it was like 1400s through like 1600s, yeah. You know, to say that they had industry in the 11 and 1200s, that's just like ridiculous. Or sorry, the 12 and 1300s.
Industry, what do they think this is fucking the orcs and fucking Saruman and shit? They're like, yeah, I have to cut down more trees. Like, what are they talking about? There's no.
I mean, if they're talking about industry as like a fucking cobbler, like doing like 4 shoes a day and shit, like come on.
It's like Age of Empires 2.
What was that?
Yeah, they're on the longbows line.
What was that? What was that Lord of the Rings meme that you posted, Zach, on your Facebook? It was like,
where Saruman is like, you have to cut down all the tree, and then he's like, look, we're trying, okay, all right, you're not giving up. time, and for fuck's sake, our tools suck. Like, I'm not trying to like insult you. All I'm saying is this is kind of a hard task to do, especially considering all the labor that's in people that aren't trained properly. Look, I'm an OSHA certified tree technician. Okay?
God damn.
Yeah, one of my arms is way bigger than the other one, so it's kind of hard to like wield this axe. Wield this like completely round axe.
Yeah.
Double-bladed axe.
And then split the returns. So capitalism really began Italy, like the 13th, 14th centuries, when you had voyagers going, like Marco Polo and stuff, going to China to get silk, and people would take goods that were cheap in one area.
Oh my God, the Silk Road is capitalism. The Silk Road and Marco
Spice
Polo
trade and like
deeply in a feudal mode of production. International trade is capitalism, like just international trade.
They didn't even have fucking silk there. They didn't have silk in fucking wherever the fuck Marco Polo was from. Where's he from? Spain or some shit?
Italy.
Yeah,
And he got the silk from China. He got the silk.
But think about it. So, like in the medieval times, some guy goes and he sails across the globe at India or something, and he gets some like black pepper, and then he sails all the way back. It takes him like a year or 2 years to do it, and then some guy like buys the pepper from him. That's capitalism. And like black pepper it was worth its weight in gold because it was so hard to get. Imagine how minuscule amount of the population ever bought pepper. No normal or anything. Like no normal people didn't have money to begin with. Like there were just serfs and stuff. Like so, this is capitalism.
Yeah, no,
like there's like one guy in the whole country who buys stuff, and then everybody else.
Just because merchants exist in feudalism, that itself is capitalism. Like what the fuck?
In another area where it's expensive. In fact, there was this friar, Luciano.
Well, this is also what left comms think, though.
And he created he didn't create it. He just popularized double entry bookkeeping. It was just a way to make accounting actually work so you could do complex transactions. So now finally companies, it's not just like barely making enough as a feudal serf to survive and sell your excess here or there. Companies are making serious profits to invest and then be able to...
What?
Yeah, the serf starts his own startup tech company.
What the fuck? I'm sorry,
serf
what?
Becomes
the serfs are trying to survive, and what do you mean? Like, serfs are fucking supposed to be fed by their landlords in exchange for their labor. What the fuck are you talking about? What did he say exactly there? Like, that is just baffling.
Were they fed by their landlords, or were they just like, did they just keep part of the food for themselves?
Well, the way... Yeah, I'm not sure. At least the way the tenant farming over here worked was that, let's say you work like 3 days a week on the landlord's land, and then the rest of the time you work on your own land. You have to work on their land to pay the rent, and then the rest of the time you try to like get enough so you don't die.
I would work really shitty on the landlord's land. Be like fucking taking lots of breaks and shit.
Or you might have to like
breaks on your phone.
yeah.
Well, I don't know how they supervised it. I saw this guy, like his interview. It was like from the 50s, like the interview, and he said that even in like the 20s, he used to be like a little kid and he would work 16 hours or something. So I don't know how they supervised you, like how they made you work that long. Maybe you had to do all the work and then you could go. I don't know.
Let me hear what this guy was saying.
Complex transactions. So now finally companies, it's not just like barely making enough as a feudal serf to survive and sell your excess here or there. Companies are making...
Serfs are selling their excess.
Serfs are selling their excess. What the fuck do you think a serf is?
You're not just a measly serf, like
you're not just like a farmer
driving around, serf driving around in their Tesla, like
like Corolla anymore. They got.
You're not just a serf going to Walmart to buy Coca-Cola. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is complete nonsense.
That, so let's check the time of events here now.
Because
so capitalism comes around. Capitalism comes around in the 13th and 14th centuries, and this allows serfs and peasants to make more money, which they can sell excess produce and invest in companies. So,
well, that's how farming today works. So he thinks that's how farming was back then. He's a fucking moron.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Well, okay.
How could you like not know? This guy like so clearly doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, and he's like acting as if he knows what he's talking about.
This guy would suck as a serf. He would be really disappointed if he became a serf. He'd be like, dude, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, like, gets killed the first... Like, he gets his arm chopped off the first day because he was selling the excess.
Yeah.
Well, I still want to know what this has to do with Catholicism.
Oh yeah, let's.
And so
see.
capitalism is this idea of the private free exchange, that the means of production and economies are dispersed among a large number of private actors. Whether they're
Wait, so wait.
Why does there have to be a large amount?
There's private exchange of the means of production.
Means of production are dispersed among a large amount of private individuals. Why does it have to be a large, though? Well, whatever. It doesn't matter. Move on.
So bad.
They're firms, corporations, or individuals. Communism and socialism essentially relate to the same thing of saying that an economy should rather be planned by a central authority. And so the means of production should be owned by the state. And so the state is the one that produces goods and services and then allocates those goods and services based on people's need to make sure that everyone has what they need, that the government produces all of these things or provides them, and then is able to distribute them among the populace based upon their need. The ultimate goal, communism and socialism they're intertwined with one another. They've been seen, one has been seen as kind of the midway point to the other, that the ultimate goal, like for communists, is to get to a classless society where there's no rulers, there's no
His description of socialism is actually much more accurate than about capitalism.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, okay, so first the apes land on the moon and then they built their monuments there and then you throw the bone into the air and then the satellite comes, like, okay.
Yeah, what the fuck?
All just kind of help one another. Essentially, we're all equal in abilities, at least.
It sounds like a pretty good idea to me.
So the difference is not socialism is peaceful and communism is authoritarian. There have been peaceful communes and there have been authoritarian socialists. So the difference is just more along the stage of progression towards this centralized planning of economy. But the main difference is capitalism, private actors produce the means of services and distribute them in a market. Communism, socialism would be centralized authority, like a government does that and distributes them.
So why can't a Catholic be a socialist?
Well, a Catholic can't be a socialist because it contradicts important social teachings of the Catholic faith. And so what we do in our book, Catholic
like the one when Jesus said that if you don't pay your insurance bill, people should have the right to make you an indentured slave.
To be fair, it does fit pretty well with the Catholic Church, like mass accumulating wealth. So
no, yeah, of course, but like if we're talking about,
I don't know how the Bible talks about that, but
since the middle of the 19th century, when socialism emerged, it has been consistently condemned by popes like Leo XIII, Pius XI, even going
except for the most recent one.
Yeah, again, what a surprise! Like
for the first time, he actually canonized a liberation theologist from Latin America.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I mean, the religious community has always been split. There's always been religious people who are leftists, religious people who are right-wing. But, it doesn't really surprise me that the conservative religious authorities in Western countries would condemn leftist politics.
Well, you know what? All I can really say is I hope the liberation theologists in the jungle of Colombia are watching this guy's video and they just put down their arms when they see it. That's all one can really hope for at the end of the day.
All the way forward to John the 23rd and John Paul II. That the problem is that it denies particular rights that we have. And in fact, Catholic social teaching, the idea of social doctrine, social teaching, that emerged from socialism. That you didn't have Catholic social teaching developed at the end of the 19th century. I haven't always had it in church history and dealing with moral theology.
So it arose as a sort of response to socialism?
Yes, well, it did. It rose to a response and a change in the world. So Pope Leo XIII in Rerum Novarum, probably the most famous Catholic social teaching encyclical, most famous one on socialism. And Rerum Novarum means on the new things. It's also called on the problem of human work. And so what's new is this. It's not poverty that's new, actually. For most of human history, people lived
really
prior to.
Didn't know that.
It's amazing how things have changed. Prior to 1820, 99% of people lived on less than $2 a day. They lived in extreme poverty. That was just the norm for people. Whereas today,
it's the norm for a lot of people now. Dummy.
In developed countries, and it's starting.
He's been watching a lot of PragerU.
You look over in East Asia. Prior to the development of market economies there, something like 60% of the East Asia lived in extreme poverty. After the growth of market economies, it dropped about 40%.
Oh yeah, Bangladesh is doing fantastic now.
So when you look at that, what was new for Pope Leo XIII was there are now islands of wealth among the poor that didn't exist before. what do we do with this? And there's also new industry. People,
That's
instead
great.
of having to have a subsistence level of living on a farm, where sometimes people romanticize farm life, but then they forget about things like famines or blights, which could end up killing you or leaving you severely malnourished.
God was a big
rural
fan
life
of
was
those.
just horrible. Just famine, starvation were not uncommon. And so as cities emerged in the modern era, because of capitalism and because of the rise of factories and things like this, many people flocked to the cities to just find a better life for themselves, but they became
That is not what happened. Oh my God.
That is beautifully
employers
wrong.
would view
It's not as if they had something called the Enclosure Acts where they, like, you know, made the land, owned.
Yeah, and I don't understand, dude. Like, what
In the Middle Ages, you weren't even allowed to leave your village. You were tied to the land or tied to the household or tied to the guild. You couldn't even leave. They had to change all that with capitalism to make that happen.
Yeah, no, that shit is
It's pretty absurd.
fucking
Doesn't
absurd.
even understand. It's like they're just like, why, dude, let's go to like the city, man. Like we could stay here, but it would be better if we like made it so we don't have any land.
Let's check out the city.
I don't like having land. I don't like having land. I'm actually just gonna go be a fucking factory bitch now. Like, okay, that's smart.
I'm just gonna skip ahead to wherever he starts talking about.
There was like a generation or several generations of these semi-proletarians, like before the proletariat fully formed, which was like people who came from a peasant family, but because their farm was so small, it couldn't sustain all of them. Some of them, or most of them, like the younger generation, had to go to the cities at least half the time. So you would work on your parents' farm during the summer, and then during the winter you had to go like do a logging or like work in the factories or in the shipyard or something, until eventually it got to the point where you didn't have anything in the countryside anymore. You had no land, or your land was so little that it was totally impractical to try to farm it, so you would just have to sell it to some bigger like rural capitalist landowner.
Well, this guy seems really smart. Let's see what he has to say.
in China, in the Great Leap Forward. The same thing. We're going to mechanize China. We're going to do communal farming. Everyone farms. We collect the produce and then redistribute it. And what happened? The worst famine in the history of the world. Great Leap Forward in China.
Right. That's exactly how it happened. Brilliant.
There's a parallel to that in the U.S. That when the Pilgrims came over here.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, when the Pilgrims,
community farms that didn't work.
No, it didn't. Because what happens, and this is what
Yeah,
happens
because when you have to work together, you're just like, nah, I'll just rather not eat. Because like even in the Middle Ages, the land wasn't privatized; it was owned by the village together.
Was the Great Leap Forward really the worst famine in human history?
May have been, but I mean,
to call it the Great Leap Forward wasn't the famine, but there was a famine too.
Yeah, no, but of course the famine happened because of the Great Leap Forward.
Well, it was in part caused by like people over-reporting their yields and shit. I mean, I think essentially like the goals of like Mao and the party at the time were pretty high, like super high to the point where people couldn't really realistically do it.
But it's also because
you had also the Sino-Soviet split, which meant all those fucking contracts with the Soviets just cut off, so their industrialization was halted by that event, and also like the weather and erosion.
Yeah,
I mean, it's obviously like if you want to have like millions of people who used to be farming to now not be farming, that's basically what it's all about. Like that's the same thing in the Soviet Union. Like collectivization of agriculture was necessary to boost up agricultural productivity if you wanted to be able to facilitate people moving into the cities, because otherwise the cities would starve because the countryside couldn't produce enough to feed the cities. So you had to boost agricultural productivity to make industrialization possible. So obviously, like, yeah, if a ton of people leave the countryside, of course it's gonna cause a challenge for agriculture, but at the same time, like, no actual scientist denies the weather aspect of it as well, that you can clearly like see how the heat and the drought corresponds perfectly with the same years as the crop failures, because the crops didn't just fail because ruined the crops on purpose or something. Like
it's those communist like watering techniques that just are not very efficient. You know what I mean? They start doing watering it with
the right to private property.
Sorry, I'm cutting you off, but I remember you saying like a communal restroom. Like, what's cleaner, your bathroom or a bathroom at the local park?
Right, because if it's
okay,
everybody
maybe
can
it's
use
because the parks
brilliant.
Maybe it's because the parks aren't maintained.
Yeah,
the
maybe it's
capitalists
because
don't want to
there's
spend
homeless
money on maintaining the parks.
Maybe it's because there's homeless people caused by capitalism shooting dope in the fucking bathroom on like an hourly basis.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But nobody owns it, then everybody thinks somebody else is going to take care of it. And so when the Pilgrims were here and they did communal,
Yeah, like if you compare like the streets in New York, or if you compare the streets in like Pyongyang, it's like Pyongyang is just like puke and like crap everywhere, just like horrible like just like piss
Dead
stains
bodies.
on the walls.
There's dead
like,
bodies all over the streets.
But then in New York, in capitalist New York, it's immaculate. You're walking
the street. You could lick
yeah,
it.
like you're walking around with your lollipop, and then you lick the lollipop, it gets wet, then you drop it on the ground. No biggie, it's clean. You still pick it up like.
Yeah, definitely. That's right.
You don't have to work that hard. Someone else will pick up the slack. And the system could take a few free riders, basically.
Whereas in capitalism, there's nobody in prison, nobody unemployed, no slackers, no unproductive members of society.
No slackers. Even the guys that sit on shareholder boards go on vacation to fucking the Middle East every month and just sit there and make money off of the backs of actual workers. There's definitely no slackers in the system.
They say this, like they say that, it's inefficient to have more than the absolute minimum amount of workers. Like it's ineffective to have more workers than the absolute minimum requirement. Well, maybe so, but I still think it's more ineffective to have the minimum required workers at the workplace and then everybody else is just sitting completely idle because they're unemployed. Like how does that make sense?
They just become an NPC.
Yeah, it's like in Stronghold Crusader, like all the guys like sitting around the campfire, like
like, I hope I find some work soon. I sure hope they build something for me to do. Otherwise, we keep standing here.
Yeah, that game teaches you about universal employment. You don't wanna leave anybody unemployed.
Yeah, give him a fucking sword or a crossbow, and put his ass to work.
Then the whole thing starts to collapse. And so then Governor Bradford of the Massachusetts Bay Colony said, never mind, God in his infinite wisdom saw a course fitter for them. So he gave everybody their own plot.
Jesus, how many times are you going to tell me to fucking subscribe to? This is like the fifth time.
Cool.
And when you own it,
you take care of it.
Yeah, and so that's why we show it doesn't work. However...
Wait. So you're telling me that if you own something, you will take care of it. So then, like, how is that incompatible with what we're saying? We're saying that the workers should own the means of production, so they can take care of the means of production. What do you like? That's just like retarded.
I own a lot of things I don't take care of. Like my phone's got this big ass crack in it. I haven't fixed that in fucking mad long. I own my phone. I don't take care of that shit.
Didn't you just fix that?
Fucked up.
Like,
yeah, I think so. But I mean, it's my own, so I probably fix it. But
well, that's the thing. Like you know, like when you live in your own apartment and it's like there's just trash everywhere. It's all like dirty dishes. But then somebody else comes over. You're like, oh, you gotta clean. So like other people are coming. Like, well, imagine if they were there all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a stupid example, but like, maybe it's a stupid example, but like, but I mean, like, but just the idea that if you own something together and you have some responsibility for owning it together, like, I would feel embarrassed, ruin something that everybody, like, if my workplace had like a music studio that we could use, all the workers could use a music studio. Imagine if I was like the guy who just went in there and just fucked everything up and just like broke all the instruments and like puked everywhere because I was drunk, because I wanted to play music when I was drunk. I shat on the floor. I wouldn't do that because I would feel like an idiot. Everybody would hate me. Like,
somebody posted a really good-looking video, I think, that we're gonna react to. It's called "Socialism Will Destroy America" by the Atlas Society. I'm sure this is gonna be real fun.
My name is Socialism. I was a sickly child, plagued with severe allergies to inequality. I wanted to play with other kids, but competition made me very, very sick.
Oh my god.
Altruism was proud.
Dude, this is like some serious Ayn Randian shit right here. Like peak Ayn Rand.
Suffering. But Dad, collectivism, said I lacked team spirit. Didn't think enough about
and he beat the shit out of me.
They called a doctor by the name of Karl Marx.
What the fuck is this?
My common sense. Dr. Karl even gave me utopian optical implants.
Oh yeah, Marx, big utopian.
Yeah, big utopian guy.
Big fan.
Utopian, non-utopian.
Yeah.
So I could finally see the big picture. I was cured, so I made it my mission in life to cure others. I conducted hundreds of operations all over the world. Russia, China, Cuba, North Korea. When patients resisted treatment, I came to rely on strong orderlies who helped me employ more traditional measures.
Oh my God!
Good
old Adolf Hitler.
Exercise, and when all else failed,
Put him next to Chavez.
Yeah, that's
Despite my best efforts, early results were less than ideal. Disappointing, perhaps, but discouraging? Never. Who, after all, could question my noble intent, my utopian vision? One woman did. Ayn Rand fled the Soviet Union for my most ambitious operations for the United States of America, a country so infested with individualism, it spread the contagion of capitalism all over the world. This would prove my most challenging case to date.
Look at... Wow, that's
the
a
Cold
crappy
War
drawing.
failed to bring down America's fever delirium. But after administering the New Deal and the Great Society,
Oh my God! They're saying the New Deal is socialism, is Marxism.
Yeah, and it was bad, terrible. Bring back the depression.
Oh my God! I can't understand objectivists. I'm like, what the fuck is up with objectivists? Why are all these Ayn Randian fucking retards like? Why do they still exist?
Why did they call it objectivism? What's objective about it?
I don't know. Ayn Rand just called her ideology objectivism.
Is it like, does she believe in objective morality? I doubt it.
I would assume, yeah, probably.
That's strange. Well,
of course, the basis of objective morality is freedom. You know,
objective morality, which is
he needs to change out his PBE. I just figured I'd point that out because like he's done like several operations using the same gloves. It's just really bothering me. Honestly, his employer probably doesn't provide him that. He really needs to do his job, and he pretends like it's okay. Not a big deal.
Well, it's socialist public health care, so what do you expect?
Yeah.
Even dependent on my treatment. Continued redistribution helped lower the risk of relapse, but there was something about the American Constitution that resisted repeated attempts at a more radical egalitarian cure.
Oh, man.
I devised a multi-pronged treatment plan. Radiation with resentment, envy injections, guilt transfusions, entitlement intubations, and a new drug, the Green New Deal.
Oh my God!
It's just like crack. I fucking love it.
Dude, this shit hits hard. This shit hits hard.
Resentful, envious,
guilt-ridden,
entitled,
and Green New Deal.
Poor people angry.
The Green New Deal is dude.
Poor people should just learn to keep their mouths shut. That's the problem. That's the problem with society. Poor people complain too much.
Oh, fucking God.
Of eco-consciousness.
Let the planet burn. Fuck the environment.
I can't claim all the credit. Much of the patient education has been carried out by an army of enlightened academics.
What? Oh my God.
Like Ayn Rand and pay homage to Karl Marx. Just a couple more operations, a few more vestigial rights to be removed, and together we can kill the cat.
It's so crazy that this like McCarthyist shit is still going on. Like,
yeah, this honestly.
Hollywood and academia controlled by Marxists. Like,
hashtag socialism kills.
This is, this is good propaganda.
Society.
A little bit disturbing.
Well, I don't think it's that good. It goes way too blatant. It goes too hard.
It's too cheesy.
What if we did imagine if we did capitalism kills?
Yeah, like
I injected them with free markets.
Well, no, yeah, like that shit sounds ridiculous.
People wouldn't like that because socialists usually have
better
reasonably high
standards.
intelligence.
Yeah. That's fucking crazy. That's ridiculous. All right, I guess.
So I used to be a communist, but then I removed my brain and became a capitalist. Like, okay, very compelling argument.
If any of you guys want to be unmuted, so you can say what you think of that video, just comment.
Well, I liked how nuanced and fact-based it was. Very analytical, thought-provoking, subtle.
All right, go ahead, Mary.
Oh my god, this video is so ridiculous!
Yeah, it's pretty
I'm sorry, it's so big brain. My head is growing in several sizes.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
No, that's how it be though. You know, that's just how it works. You know, the socialism kills. Like, what can I say?
I know, right?
Hey, did you hear that the Victims of Communism Foundation has started to add the corona deaths to like the death toll of communism?
Yes, I've heard that, and that is such a big brain move on their part.
Yeah,
honestly, I'm glad there's
chess here.
I mean, yeah, okay, it's ridiculous they blame coronavirus on communism or socialism, which doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't exist in China. So it's ridiculous on many levels. Obviously, like personally, I would claim that capitalism bears some responsibility for coronavirus because it denies people adequate health care. So
not to mention that the disease probably came from these rare animal markets.
And it denies people testing too.
But regardless, honestly, I'm happy that they I'm happy that they are adding it to the death toll because it just makes them look like idiots. Like, it's so stupid. Like, it's not smart propaganda at that point anymore. It's too ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, thank you, Mary. Now, I think we're gonna do one last video, and I think it's gonna be the policy ed one.
All right. Bad too, just from the start of it.
They all have like a ton of money, it seems, because they can do these animations.
Yeah, these take a lot of fucking time to make. I'm sure that fucking video that we just watched, that must have taken like months to make. All those fucking drawings.
Yeah.
But that's like every PragerU video. They all have like fancy graphics. They have tons of money.
Yeah.
Communism would inevitably triumph over liberal democracy.
Oh my God.
Yet during the 20th century, liberal democracies delivered unprecedented freedom and wealth to their citizens.
Oh my God.
While communist countries decayed into impoverished dictatorships.
Really?
Why did communism fail and liberal democracy prosper? First, unlike communism, liberal democracy successfully balances individual rights with majority rule. This allows liberal democracies to pass laws that reflect the preferences and judgments of the people, while preserving individual freedom and equality under the law. Second, communism tasks government officials with making most decisions about economics, society, and politics. In other words, the government makes decisions.
They don't pick your job. Why do you think they pick your job? Why do they think that in socialism your job is handpicked for you by the government?
So in capitalism, you get to choose. Do you want to die because you can't get healthcare, or do you want to have money and pay for it? But in socialism, you don't have a choice. You just get healthcare. It's so tyrannical.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
On the other hand, believe that individuals, whatever their flaws, are generally better able to act in their own interests and give them the right.
My God, nobody. They didn't fucking give you your job in socialism.
Housing. Do I want housing? Dude, yeah, I do.
I don't.
I don't know. I don't know. Do I? I want to have a choice. What if I want to be homeless?
This is like during like.
Do I want science?
This is like post-apocalyptic capitalism, and like when you're born.
Do I want police? Do I want healthcare? Do I want art? Do I want syringes, apples, or tennis rackets? No, I want housing.
This is post-apocalyptic.
Do I want drones? Drones is up there.
I mean, there's so many problems with this. The idea of the human as a rational economic act, the idea that humans make choices based 100% on rational economic calculations, but that's not actually true. If that was true, marketing wouldn't exist. Like, all kinds of products wouldn't be sold. In reality, people do stupid things with their money. They buy things on a whim. They even make investments oftentimes based on emotion and not like some cold hard logic. And even if they did, they wouldn't have the adequate information to know what's actually in their own best interest. Whatever. I mean, this is a stupid thing. I don't even need to explain. Like, so people don't use their money responsibly. Like, people are literally saying, oh, well, I don't want to have health insurance because I would rather just like have my money now and use it on something. But then you get sick, then you're like, oh, well, whatever.
Choices. Finally, while Marx argued that social and political disharmony would vanish under communism, liberal democracies are grounded in a more pragmatic and realistic understanding of human nature. They recognize that while humanity is capable of
the human
cooperation
nature.
and devotion to justice, human beings also have unique wants and needs that are bound to lead to conflict.
I'm gonna fucking kill you!
As a consequence, liberal democracies design political institutions to constrain the passions and mitigate the biases of the people and their elected representatives. Ultimately, liberal democracy begins with the premise that human beings are born equally, with fundamental rights that government.
Whereas communism totally
whereas
doesn't.
communism, whereas in communism, everybody is strictly unequal.
Born unequal under communism.
Yes, in the Soviet Constitution, it said that every man, woman, and child is not equal at all, and everybody is assigned to a specific number, and that determines their class.
I'm like, okay, let's ignore slavery and all this. Let's ignore the fact that capitalism has had a long history where they say like, oh well, if you're not white, or if you're mentally ill, or you're a woman or something, or you're gay, then you're basically not treated equally. Like, let's ignore that for a second. Let's imagine that that's not true. Okay, they say that everybody's born equal, but is everybody actually born equal? No, because if you're born with a lot of money, then you have a lot of opportunities. If you're born without a lot of money, then you don't have opportunities. So, like, what kind of equality is that?
True.
It's imaginary equality. It's just equality completely in words only, but that's the way they like it.
Yeah, because that's what suits them, right?
And protect. It is this foundation that allows individuals to thrive personally, politically, and economically.
Politically, huh? People are
Are
thriving.
you thriving, Polinkazh? Are you thriving right now?
I'm thriving politically right now.
I'm thriving.
But I'm thriving politically by going against my liberal government.
I've been eating ham sandwiches for like the last 2 months. I'm thriving. Thriving as an individual.
Yeah, I ate some ramen just now. I'm thriving.
Yeah.
I'm laid off today because of coronavirus. I'm thriving. Laid off from my manual labor, like factory job.
Damn.
Yeah, Kenway said $30,000 in medical debt. Thriving. Had a pre-existing conditions, denied treatment. Thriving. Homeless under the bridge. Thriving. This video just made me happy. I realized how much I'm thriving.
That shit is just fucking like ridiculous in every way.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, especially the people at my work, they're really struggling right now, and like 70 to 80 hour work weeks for like months on end, like without a day off.
Catching on fire, thriving.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's hold a vote. It's CNN, Commie News Network, or conservatives are the real environmentalists.
Commie News Network.
Look, if you go for my idea, then whoever votes for me gets the two bowls.
Let's do a vote.
Yeah, I'm doing a vote right now in the audience too.
Yeah, usually in socialism we don't have any elections, but right now we're doing one.
Yeah, typically we would actually be against such a thing, but right now there's just no other option. Please react to the post and don't put the number in.
Someone said third way. Third way.
I don't know why 6 people posted 1, 2, 3, 4. But
well, that was a mistake on their part.
I don't
because
know
that's
why
not
most people voted 1, 2, 3, 4.
Press 3 for Michael Perenni.
So right now we have 6 votes.
That means 4 more videos.
Right now we have 6 votes for EcoCon and 5 votes for CNN. So I guess we're gonna do the EcoCon one. Oh wait, now there's 6 and 6 votes.
Kind of fucking malarkey is this.
This is rigged anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
Polinkazh owns the app. He owns
I own Discord. Dirty communists coming into Discord and rigging elections on Discord servers.
One person on the ballot, dude. Like, what the fuck?
I hate clean air and water. I don't care how much
Okay.
rivers and streams.
Me too, man.
I don't even like trees.
Me too.
I just care about tax cuts.
That's right.
Who am I? Well, that's easy. I'm a conservative. Or at least I'm a progressive caricature of a conservative. Conservatives breathe the same air and drink the same water environmentalists do.
No, they don't.
Conservatives love taking their kids to the same national parks environmentalists do. In fact, the whole idea of national parks...
That's why they do all, like, the drilling, like, the fracking for the oil in, like, Native American reservations and stuff. They don't do those in, like, in the middle of, I don't even know what's a fancy area where rich people
Like
live. I don't even know.
Yellowstone. Like they do it in Yellowstone.
That's why, like...
nothing like Ulysses. I'm sorry. I don't like
Right? Think about this, like
what the fuck even is that?
Think about this, like so many Americans don't even drink tap water, like at all, because they're like, oh, tap water is dangerous, or tap water tastes bad, or something.
Yeah, no, we don't drink the same water.
They
That's why
would
I said
rather
no.
drink bottled water, but then there's poor
Rich
people
have
who
access
have to drink
better
tap water.
So more
Yeah, there's
expensive,
poor people who
good
have
water.
to drink tap water, and they get literal lead poisoning from it, and then the government doesn't even deal with it. They're like, yeah, well, whatever, it's more
Yeah.
important. Tax cuts are more important. Let's just try to hide it.
Let Nestle handle it.
The park system was greatly expanded by another Republican, Teddy Roosevelt. And the Environmental Protection Agency was, yes, established by a...
Poor people generally, they live in more crowded areas close to the factories and like all the industrial production and stuff, while rich people live in more spacious areas where they have larger properties with fewer people around, and certainly all the power plants and factories and mines are far away from where the rich people live, because that's just how it is. Like,
So-
do you think a rich person wants to build a nuclear power plant like right next to their mansion? Like, no.
Yeah,
they don't
no,
build
of
it there.
course not. So PragerU wholeheartedly believes that the Republican Party has never changed ideology. The funny thing about that is the Republican Party was named by a radical socialist, and many of the early Republicans were even Marxists. And this is why Abraham Lincoln had a Marxist Secretary of State and Education, and he was surrounded by 48ers, people exiled from Germany after the 1848 revolution, who were also radical socialists. So I wonder why PragerU is so insistent on saying that the Republicans have never changed their ideology, because if that was true, they'd be fucking communists now.
Because it's convenient.
Yeah.
Conservatives want to conserve things. It's right there in the name. And one of the things
Oh,
we
wow.
want
Yeah,
conservatives
like the
is
old
environment,
order.
because you can't have a healthy community without a healthy natural environment. That wasn't even hard for me to say, because I believe
So why did they leave the climate?
conservatives love the environment every bit.
That
as
wasn't
much
even
as
that hard for me to say.
Why'd they leave the climate accords then? And why is Trump like deregulating the fucking coal? Like coal. Not to mention oil. How does still using and increasing and deregulating fossil fuels, how does that exactly like correspond with environmentalism? Is it just because like climate change is fake and all, like it's just Chinese conspiracy?
Why is that guy's hands and nose and neck a different color than his face and his ears? I don't understand.
Fucking synthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Analysts do. The question is, what is the best way to protect it? And here's where we have big differences. The environmentalists say the best way, the only way, is through massive federal and even international regulations. Conservatives say the best way to protect the environment is by protecting property rights and encouraging innovation, safer, more efficient power, nuclear, geothermal, biomass, anything that generates energy at a price consumers want and can afford.
What about coal though? What about
To the
oil?
extent that government gets involved in conservation, say protecting wildlife, it should get involved at the most local level possible, since the farmer, forester, or fisherman in Oregon knows a lot more about his environment than some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. or Brussels. So how can we tell which way works best? Let's examine the historical record. Today, and for the last century, the worst environmental offenders have been big, repressive, socialist governments. This was true in the last century, and it's true now.
This is what I want to know. So if the people who live in a place, they understand and they know the environment better and they understand it better, like what does that have to do with property rights though? Like, cause for example, here, like the Sami, they live in north. Then these international mining corporations come there. They build their mines. They dig minerals out of the ground. They pollute the environment. They drive the local people off the land. Logging companies come and they clear cut the forests, and they can do that because we have international trade agreements that allow them to do that. It protects their property rights. But I don't understand how that protects the people who actually live there. It doesn't. Some like German or American or Australian company comes in here, like clean cuts the forest, like pollutes the lakes and digs the minerals out of the ground. It doesn't feel like it's really helping me.
No, of course
but
not.
maybe I'm just not on the same wavelength as Prager. I don't see the intricacies of this.
You're just a fucking dirty commie is what it is.
The United States, even though the U.S. economy is almost 60% larger than China's. And how do those international agreements fare at protecting the environment? Not too well, it turns out. When President Trump announced his intention to pull the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord, environmentalists
He looks like a
warned
fucking ape.
Whoa. Oh, me Trump.
Me Trump.
They made
Me
his
have
hands
good
like
steak.
really. Is this like some kind of thing about him, like his hands? Because they made them really huge, like so nobody can say that he has small hands.
Trump pansy.
This is great.
Oh, dude.
imminent disaster. Yet a year later, it turned out that the United States led the world in reducing carbon emissions. It did so without surrendering its national sovereignty.
By
Europe,
what
Canada, the EU,
fucking
and
metric?
Yeah, I don't believe that for a fucking second. Usually
Well,
it's like
well,
Sweden
apparently
or
that
something.
is what the statistic like came out and said, but I mean, maybe it was falsified. I don't know.
It could be true.
All signatories to the Paris Accord.
Yeah, but I think that's just in the last. What did you say? Last year?
Yeah, but they probably, like, the United States probably, but also probably had the most or some shit like that. Like, some other countries already reduced it to a point where, like, them reducing it more would be, like, you know, minuscule. It's probably some shit like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, like, yeah, it's like easier for the fucking biggest economy in the world to reduce. Like, it's not like, what the fuck are we gonna do over here? Like, we can literally close down the whole country, and what's that gonna do? Like, when the Americans are just like driving around in their crazy huge cars and like burning, like setting oil fields on fire and like driving around in their like aircraft carriers. How are we gonna even make a dent into that?
Yeah.
Not only
But also it's convenient because like the US ships all the manufacturing to China, and then they're like, oh, China's polluting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
But increased their annual carbon emissions. The EU released an additional 40 million tons of carbon dioxide into the air that year. China, a whopping 120 million additional tons, all while wagging their fingers at Uncle Sam. Here's what you won't hear from your neighborhood Greenpeace volunteer. The left favors big government solutions, not because it's better.
Well,
for the
you know what China actually said. Like this is true. Like China said that they don't want to follow the rules if the US doesn't follow the rules. Is that unreasonable? Like, okay, whatever. Like they should still follow the same agreements, and I think they do. But they're saying that they shouldn't have to if the US doesn't follow them. And obviously, the climate accords are not nearly enough. They're just a gesture, but still, the fact that the U.S. pulls out of the even that, it just sends a terrible message. It's saying that they don't give a rat's ass. They're willing to destroy the planet for everybody. They're saying they want to ruin it for everybody. Do you think China and India and all these and Russia, these other big economies, are going to be convinced into following these if America doesn't?
Yeah, no, of course not.
Environmental proposal embraced by virtually every major progressive in America. Forget for a moment the impracticality of a plan that would outlaw most forms of American energy and cost $93 trillion. Much of the proposal has nothing to do with the environment. Socialized medicine, reparations for historical wrongs, and a jobs guarantee program are just a few of the items on its wish list. What do socialized medicine and reparations for slavery have to do with the environment? Well, nothing. But for supporters of the Green New Deal, that's okay, because their primary goal is increasing government power well beyond anything we've ever seen in America.
It's about making people's lives better. That includes jobs and healthcare and also clean air and drinking water.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, no, they don't
only care
they
about
don't-
socialized
That's why
medicine
it's called
and
the
slavery.
Green New Deal. It's the Green New Deal. It's the New Deal.
It's not like, oh well, I'm happy to drink water with lead in it since I have free healthcare. No, like I would still not want lead poisoning.
Yeah. Yeah, probably not.
Goddamn, bro.
In contrast, conservatives are all about innovating our way to a cleaner environment without depriving anyone of their freedom. Take, for example, that monster of all green monsters, horizontal drilling for oil and gas, fracking. The left demonizes fracking, even though it actually makes the environment cleaner. Country richer and now independent from Middle Eastern oil. something thought impossible a decade ago.
Oh my
How does it make the
fucking
environment
God.
cleaner?
Oh, it makes the environment
Releasing up to
cleaner
50%
because it's
less carbon dioxide
it doesn't.
into the atmosphere. Coal.
But it fucking injects toxic chemicals into the ground.
Yeah, they're saying it's better than coal and it's better than invading other countries and like waging massive wars. But that's like saying meth is so great because at least it's not heroin or something, or it's at least it's not like meth is way. Have you tried meth? It's way better than crocodile. It's also better than heroin. Like it makes you healthier, man. When I switched from crocodile to meth, I got so much healthier.
This is fucking Ricky from Trailer Park Boys fucking logic right there.
The fucking Rickyism right there.
Cheaper, people are happy to buy it. Not because government forces them to, but because it saves them money. By the way, according to a Harvard study, fracking is safe and improving all the time. Yep, innovation that produces abundant, clean energy.
Yeah, but you just said Harvard is communist.
Infringing on my freedom. That works for this conservative. You'd think it would work for anyone.
I'm sure the oil industry didn't fund that study.
So let me repeat.
Dude, this guy has the lips
I
of
love
fucking Pete Buttigieg. Like, he talks the same way that Pete Buttigieg does.
Clean air and
Damn.
water. And I don't own even a single share of Exxon. I'm Michael Knowles, host of The Michael Knowles Show for Prager University.
Shut the fuck up, you fucking idiot.
I don't own any shares on Exxon, but fucking after you. The fucking isn't fucking PragerU funded by big like oil business?
Yeah, it's funded by virtually every evil industry in America.
According to BP, there's nothing wrong with fracking.
It's not even the first time they've said that.
Like
in fact, they have a whole video talking about how fracking is actually good.
They literally said fracking makes the environment cleaner, and it's good that they left the climate accords. What the fuck? How could it's like beyond my like wildest dreams. Like I couldn't. It's
My brain is like 3 times this size right now.
Yeah, my fucking brain is growing so much that I have a fucking migraine.
I literally have the whatever, like the elephant man disease, like the elephant man disease, where your head grows to like 4 times the size.
I'm starting to look like that human that they designed that will be able to survive car crashes.
Oh god.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Jesus Christ, that fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's a literal fucking stool. It's like you're literally built as a stool.
Human shit.
Look at this guy. He looks like the Blue's Clues guy if you go for some shit.
Conservative Blue's Clues, dude.
Yeah, what is this? Something just like unnerved this image right what it is about.
Yeah, dude. Staring into your eyes lovingly.
Fracking is good. It makes it cleaner.
Why do the Native Americans want to keep their environment dirty? Why don't they just let them frack the area? Why do they keep protesting it? Why do the cops have to kill them and beat them to let them frack in the area? I wonder.
Indians are communists.
I'm starving right now, so I think this is a good place to end the video.
Fuck yeah, dude. I need to get some food.
Personally, I'm thriving.
Just like,
Personally,
fuck.
I'm thriving.
You have enough money to get food.
I'm gonna go and like start the car and just leave it out there running to make the environment cleaner.
I would like to thank everybody who came here to participate for the live event. I hope you guys enjoyed witnessing this live.
Welcome.
Thank you for watching, and see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, Polinkazh here. Thanks again for watching that video, and thanks Finbol for putting up the second part of the last episode of Big Brain University up on your channel. I'd just like to speak about some things real quick. Firstly, I'd like to speak about my friend and comrade from Poland. Some of you may know him as Towarzysz Michal. For those of you who don't know, Towarzysz Michal has been for some time now evading repressive persecution by the Polish government, namely on the charges of quote-unquote propagation of extremism or extremist ideology or something along those lines, as per recent legislation which banned so-called totalitarian ideologies from public space. Now, this law was passed back in 2019. However, recently, maybe even this year, they actually removed communism, as far as I know, from that list. However, they also have Towarzysz Michal brought up on charges of
I don't know what it is exactly, but something along the lines of dissent against the president. Some of you may know that in Poland it is illegal to speak poorly of the president, and Towarzysz Michal made a parody song in which he proclaimed the inevitable victory of the proletariat and the corruption of the current system, as well as calling the current president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, a dickhead, among other things. And so when he recently returned to Poland to visit his parents, the Polish equivalent of the FBI, I believe it's ABW, caught him while he was going for a morning jog, placed him in handcuffs, and put him into custody, bringing him up on the same charges that they brought upon him some years ago when he escaped to France. Now, I don't believe they still have him in custody. I believe that he's staying with his parents, but they will definitely not allow him to leave the country until he has been served in court, and there is a scheduled trial for him coming sometime soon. So solidarity with Towarzysz Michał, and I hope everyone wishes him the best against the repressive Polish government. The last thing that I would like to talk about is actually a new media endeavor that myself and some of my very close comrades and co-organizers are planning to launch very soon. We have a podcast named Problematic, or Problematic, however you want to say it, and it's essentially going to be kind of like a El Chapo Trap House style of podcast. In essence, it's going to be a comedy podcast in which we talk about political economic issues in relationship to the proletariat and working class, organized labor, etc., with our aims being to bring more internet leftists into the revolutionary organized labor scene in America, and to bring more American progressive working class people to more radical left politics. With that being said, please look out for updates on the podcast on my channel, as we plan on posting our first episode at some time in the next couple weeks. Thanks again for enjoying the video, and I will see you comrades soon.